being forced to liquidate. So, of course, everything went down. Yes, the fundamentals for commodities, by the way, are getting better. This is improving the fundamentals for commodities. It's not improving the fundamentals for General Motors or Citibank, but commodities are the place to be, at least in my view.
Okay, let's start going to our viewers here because they're lining up like jets on a wet tarmac on a Friday evening at JFK. Dan writes in from San Francisco. How long, Jim, do you think that the rally in the U.S. can last? How long can the rally last? You've already indicated that you don't think it's going to last forever, that there will be a wholesale sell-off at some point. But for right now, how long is this going to go on? Obviously, this Daniel here, Jim, is a momentum investor.
Well, then, I am hopeless at market timing and at short-term trading. It's got this rally is very powerful, and in my experience in the past 40 or 50 years, when you see a rally like this coming off the bottom, it lasts longer than anybody expects it because it is so powerful. It means a lot of pent-up demand. I am not selling it. I guess the best answer to you, Dan, is I am not selling at all. I'm not selling short this rally at all at the moment. Maybe you ask me in May or June. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it unfolds. I wish I were a better market timer. I promise you, Dan. I wish it more than you do.
Okay, that's Dan there. How Richard writes in here asking, what is the best way for U.S. investors to short the bond market? Jim, would you recommend shorting the bond market at this time, at a time when there's a huge issuance of treasuries coming? Is there going to be way too much stuff? Is there going to be a buyer on the other end for every one of these credits across the tenor?
Well, Richard, you ask a very good question. I am not short the bond market at the moment. I was earlier, and I quickly covered when I realized Mr. Bernanke, to my astonishment, said he was going to buy bonds. The U.S. bond market is the last bubble left. But in a bubble, you don't short too soon because bubbles go up higher than anybody can expect. I am not short the bond market. What's the best way to do it? I know there are ETFs now that are listed, which make it a little bit easier. There's something called the TBT, Tango Bravo Tango, which is a very leveraged way you can buy it. It's a very leveraged way to short the bond market. I am not doing it yet, but I fully expect to short the bond market sometime in the foreseeable future because, as I said, it's the last bubble left.
What's going to be the trigger for you to actually go short on the bond side, as long as you bring it up?
It's a good question, Bernie. I don't know. It'll probably be something. There'll be a spike up somewhere along the line. There'll be some spectacularly good news. I can't imagine what it would be, but something will happen. The bonds will go up a lot. But remember, Bernie, in Japan, long-term bonds were yielding 0.5% at one time when they made their top. So this can go to absurd levels, and bubbles usually do.
Jim, JLH is looking for investors to help them expand from 6 hotels to 200. And I've already received one email today from someone who wanted to get in touch with them. What's your view on this as a potential money earner? Do you think it makes sense?
Well, I actually once realized that there probably was a lot of opportunity in the Love Hotels in Japan. I tried to find a publicly offered chain. I could not find one, so maybe I'll look at it. I don't think in this hard times it's probably going to be a great place to be, but no, there's a huge industry in Japan, as you point out, Mike. It needs to be consolidated. Every other fragmented industry in the world has been consolidated at one time or another, so I suspect somebody's going to make a lot of money there. I've never been to one, by the way, but it sounds like they're a lot cheaper than the Imperial Hotel or some of the other places I stay in Tokyo.
I went there if my girlfriend's watching for filming purposes only. Recession is throwing up a lot of distressed assets in Japan. Now, in the past, people like Goldman Sachs have gone buying up golf courses and resort hotels. Obviously, the big American banks don't have the cash at the moment. Do you see any potential profitable opportunities in Japan with the recession?
Well, yes, I own some baby stocks in Japan, because the birth rate is just a disaster, and Japan's either going to have babies or just collapse over the next few decades. I know the government's trying to encourage people to have children, so I bought some of the baby stocks. They're extremely, extremely cheap, Hello Kitty, things like that. I got a new book out, Mike, I don't know if you saw it. It's called A Gift to My Children, and since I got these little girls, I'm learning about baby things, and I bought some of the baby stocks in Japan. But other than that, I haven't done much in Japan at all.
It's a country that never really experienced the excesses that Wall Street did, and for a while we thought they might avoid the worst of it, and then they kind of got looped into the worst of it. Which side is right here, Jim? Do you think maybe prudence, high household savings can pay off in some way, shape, or form?
Well, Bernie, you're not old enough to remember, but Japan did get very exuberant back in the late 80s. I mean, they had one of the great bubbles of all times, which then collapsed, and Japan is still paying the price. One reason Japan has been a bad place for 19 years now is they had that big bubble, and then they made mistakes. I had rather own, I think, Japanese shares than American shares as we speak here in 2009, but I'm not buying either.
Okay. Our friend, Dr. Mobius, Templeton Funds, likes Thailand most of all. I'm also going to bring in a very, very salient email here, which Rod has written in saying, and he goes basically in a nutshell, look, political stability and peaceful transfer of power is the key landmark or hallmark of developed countries. Thailand, you got an issue with this. How can smart investors ignore all this just based on low wages and natural resources when the prudent investors take everything else into consideration? Jim.
Well, this has happened in Thailand many times in the past, since the Second World War, as you well know. I think, don't they have a new government every 2 or 3 years, or a coup every 4 or 5 years? I'm not doing anything in Thailand right now. I'm interested that Mark said it's one of his favorites. That probably are beating stocks down. I just don't know because I haven't been paying too much attention. But I probably should take a look at Thailand to see, because as long as the monarchy survives, and it has survived for decades, then Thailand will probably be a good buy if it collapses.
You would wait for a collapse. You would be a vulture purchaser. That's the kind of environment or scenario that would work for you.
Well, Bernie, I know that you learn to buy low and sell high, and if I'm right, and if Thailand's going to survive, and if things collapse, then it's probably a time to buy Thailand, rather than certainly not a time to sell Thailand.
Okay, politics notwithstanding, final question on Thailand here. What would the allure be? What would the attraction be? I mean, do they have advantages that we haven't talked about?
It would be price, mainly price, because just at a price, just about any market is a good buy if it's going to survive. I mean, if you bought Cuba when Castro was marching into Havana, the price didn't matter. You made a horrible mistake. But if Thailand's going to survive, and if prices get down a lot, they've got natural resources, they've got a disciplined labor force. Thailand's in the middle of Asia, which is the place to be as far as I'm concerned. There are plenty of advantages to Thailand if you get the right price.
Interesting. That was 11 years ago, right? You and I were watching the markets careen out of control. It was the Thai baht devaluation that set off what was going to be 2 or 3 years of complete chaos. You said previously the biggest issue, the biggest real litmus test may be a currency crisis in the West, and that's something that's not factored in yet. Are we getting closer to that D-Day, which you cite there?
Yes, I mean we had plenty of crises in the world, not just in the West, in the last year or two. What we haven't had yet are big currency crises. I would suspect that's coming next because there are many currency imbalances. The U.S. dollar, with the U.S. is now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. The U.K. has got serious problems going forward. The Swiss franc it could be under pressure. So there are plenty of places to be worried about going forward. Whether the currency crisis starts in the West or in Asia, I don't know. I would suspect it's the West. The last one was in Asia. The next one should be in the West.
Jim, this is the section that we'd kind of liken to being in a duck in a shooting gallery. They're coming rat-a-tat-a-tat from all different directions. You ready? Here we go. Kumar writes in. Kumar asks, even the staunchest inflation hawks, Jim, are calling for inflation way down the line, 2, 3 years down the line. That's a lifetime in the markets. Why in the world would commodities move up in the short term? Jim, go.
Well, Kumar, good question. But remember, the only fundamentals that are improving now are commodities. Farmers cannot get loans for fertilizer, even though inventories of food are the lowest in 50 years. Nobody can get a loan to open a mine. You're not going to see any mines open for 15 or 20 years. The reserves of everything are in decline. And if the world is going to improve, commodities are going to be the first and the best place to be. And even if they don't improve, commodities are still better off fundamentally than most other things.
Okay, Amit, on a related
And by the way,
question
Kumar, just one second, please, Bernie.
That's fine.
Kumar,
Go ahead.
if you look back over the past 3 or 4 or 5 months, the best place to be, other than China, has been commodities. Commodities have done much better. Commodities are up over the past 4 or 5 months. Stocks are still down, except China, of course.
Okay, and this is these questions all dovetail here. Amit asks, Jim, how come food prices are still high, relatively high, when other commodities like oil are down? I can vouch for that. Rice has not come down the equivalent of like oil has from 150 down to 50 bucks. Very few foodstuffs have. I'm still paying an obscene amount of money for arugula at the local version of Whole Foods. So why is that? Is this conspiracy? Is this an oligarchy, or what's going oligopoly, or what's going on here? Is somebody sticking it to somebody else?
Well, Bernie, you're probably eating very expensive foods. I'm sure the price of caviar hasn't come down at all, and pate and the other stuff. But the real situation is we have the lowest in